Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I am Shizanagi, the #1 guardian on YouTube, so I think. Today I'm going to be talking about the new patch that just got released because Guardian got hit. I feel like they really targeted us with this update. So there's two things that they changed overall for Guardian and overall for Luminary. For Guardian, our Righteous Instincts got nerfed. From getting might every second, it turned to every 3 seconds. Normally when we have resolution, we're able to upkeep 6 might at any given time. It went down to 2 might only. So what that does is we're losing out on 120 power. If ever you were running Relic of Mistburn, it used to be 9 to 10 might uptime. Now it's 5 might. So overall what this did to our class is lower our damage across any elite spec. I feel like this won't really affect Willbender that much. Firebrand, not many people play Power Firebrand, in World v World at least, so I don't think they're really gonna hurt from this. Dragon Hunter will kind of hurt a bit, and Luminary will hurt a bit. One big thing that we suffer from the Righteous Instinct is builds that want to do 25 stack might. Before it was really easy for us to have 25 stacks non-stop because we already had that 6 might uptime always. And with Mistburn, which you will use as a relic if you're trying to do a 25 stack might, it was definitely super duper easy just to get that 25 might because we're already at 10 always. So how will that affect those builds? For Dragon Hunter, I feel like it won't matter too much. Just because if you're a Dragon Hunter and you're doing a 25 might build, some of your might gain is from blocking, and Dragon Hunter still has a lot of block. They'll just need to make some tweaks to make their builds still viable. The easiest tweak would be to run Rune of Strength so that you have that 50% might uptime. You definitely have to run the cake, the Ascended cake, where you get might every time you crit. And some other things you can change is your sigil. Whether you do Sigil of Battle so that you get might every time you weapon swap, or Sigil of Strength. But I think Sigil of Battle is way stronger than Sigil of Might. When it comes to Willbender, you can still do a 25 might Willbender. Some things you need to change is your trait. What you can do is run Holy Reckoning. That way every time your Virtue passives proc, you gain might. Other than that, you're going to do the same thing. Sigil of Battle, Rune of Strength, and the Ascended Cake so that you get might every time you crit. Another thing they changed is the Focus Mastery. Reduced the protection duration from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. It's funny because they just buffed the Focus weapon, and a lot of people already wasn't using it before, but when they buffed it, I've seen a lot of people started using it again. I don't want anyone to get discouraged from this nerf. For the most part, if you like using the focus, it'll still be good. The protection that we get from the Focus Mastery, it's just an added bonus, and there's not many builds out there that really focus on protection uptime anyways. Having a build revolving around protection in Guardian isn't really the best anyways. For the most part, people who want protection will run Save Yourself, and that will give you a lot of protection. You're not really going to feel it that much. Plus, when you think about it, while you're using Focus, Focus 5, you use Focus 5 not to get the protection, but to get 3 blocks. So you don't really benefit from getting that 4 seconds of protection before, because you're blocking and not taking any damage. And when you use Focus 4, sure, you can use your Focus 4 on yourself for like healing and stuff like that, and you can benefit on protection, but half the time we use our Focus 4 on range to do damage, so I don't think this will matter too much. I think Guild Wars 2 just doesn't want us to have too much protection because we already have so much damage mitigation in our kit, so it shouldn't matter too much. Now moving on to Luminary. I'll just quickly read the patch notes and then we'll get into it. Dazzling Hammer. Reduce the might stacks from 8 to 3 and reduce the day's duration from 2 to 1. Effulgent Stance. Increase the CD from 25 seconds to 30 seconds. Lowered the maximum strength power coefficients and reduced the days from 2 seconds to 1 second. Sovereign of Light. Reduced the power coefficients from 0.8 to 0.3. So, first thing we'll talk about is the Dazzling Hammer. The Dazzling Hammer, it's a big nerf just because usually when we're using Dazzling Hammer, we get out of it and we start comboing into big bursts, just because we get the 10% when we leave our forge after using the hammer. The overall daze nerf from 2 seconds to 1 second, I feel like we're not going to feel it at all, because we don't really take advantage of the daze for its duration. We kind of just take advantage of it for interrupting people's flow in fights. Next up I want to talk about is the fact that they only nerfed the cooldown of Effulgent Stance, the damage, and the daze. I feel like the biggest part that made Effulgent Stance strong was that it had such a big barrier. 4k barrier is a lot. And the fact that they didn't touch that, I'm really happy about. When we use Effulgent Stance before, we wouldn't use it for the damage, we would use it to explode our light aura. I'm okay with the changes they did with Effulgent. Next up, Sovereign of Light. There's the elephant in the room, and they reduced the damage by a lot. So I ran some tests, and overall, they reduced the Luminary's damage by 17 to 20%. Now, 17 to 20% might be a lot, but we just need to start focusing on other things when we play Luminary, rather than thinking of our explosions as damage. I think the best way to play Luminary now is to just take advantage of our damage amps. Piercing Stance, giving us 10%, Hammer when we leave Forge, giving us 10%, and combo based off that. Shouldn't really think about our Light Aura Detonation as part of our burst, rather than just an extender to our other main bursts. So our main burst will pretty much just be our weapon skills. And we need to think about using the Luminary Forge for a little burst with the hammer, and start thinking of the other skills as just utilities. And then when it comes to light auras, just think of it as a Condi Cleanse and a heal, and a little bit of damage, extra damage. With these changes to Sovereign of Light, it does open up some different builds that we can do. Since we don't have to rely on Sovereign of Light, we don't need to maximize the amount of light aura we need. So for example, one thing we can do is, instead of running Purging of Light, we used to run this so that our heal turned into a light aura, and that every time we get a light aura, we remove conditions. The thing is, with my build, we already get a lot of Condi Cleanse. We have the F2 as a Condi Cleanse, we have Contemplation Purity, which is the best Condi Cleanse ever. Our heal skill is already a Condi Cleanse, plus our Staff 3 is a Condi Cleanse. So for the most part, you don't really need, you don't always need this Purging Light Condi Cleanse. So what you can do is you can start using Resplendent Weaponry. Every time we equip a Radiant weapon, we get Might and Fury. How does this affect us? First of all, we now have a Fury source. Before we didn't have a Fury source just because we would usually run Inner Fire. Since we don't have any burning, we couldn't really run that. So now that we have Fury, we can do more damage, and we can tweak our stats so that we can have more of something. So that means I can have more power, more overall damage, so that can really balance out the lack of might that we're getting now. Plus the might from this will also balance it out. So if anything, if we run this, that'll pretty much negate the might that we lost from Righteous Instinct, but I don't think that will negate the might that we lost from Dazzling Hammer. Another thing we can do is Empowered Armaments. 10% damage buff for 20 seconds if you use every single ability is pretty strong. I can definitely see this being good, especially since we're so unkillable. That 10% lasting for 20 seconds is a big damage buff that can really balance the damage we lost from the nerf. So what I'm going to do to fix this, just because they nerfed our overall damage, I'm going to increase our damage. And the way for me to do that is to change relics. So I used to run Relic of Demon Queen to make my poisons anti-healing 50% instead of 33%. Now I'm going to go for Relic of Claw. That way, every time I interrupt, we get a damage amp of 7%. I feel like that will somewhat balance that nerf and that lack of damage, and for the most part, our damage will still feel the same. So, how does Luminary look now? They didn't really nerf what made Luminary broken. So they didn't really touch on what makes Luminary so unkillable. They didn't touch our healing, our barrier, and our protection. So for the most part, we're still pretty unkillable and strong. So everyone, that was just a little update on what changed with Guardian with new patch notes. I hope it was informative. I hope I didn't miss anything. Let me know in the comments if I did. Thank you for watching, and as always, it's a pleasure being your favorite Worldview World Guardian.